to another episode of the Rugby Rookie. And today I have the pleasure of having Noah Lata with me today. I've known Noah for the last, probably 3 years or so. And the way I was introduced to him is he was reaching out for some things with the World Rugby Shop. Now, Noah has been involved in rugby from a very young age. He grew up in Arizona and was part of a elite, not only flag rugby, but then going into a number of other arenas in both sevens and 15s. And then over the past year, I've had the pleasure of coaching with him over at Eagle High School here in Idaho. So Noah, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thank you for having me, Maurice. Thank you.
It's a blast because I get to know you from a different angle and would love for the public to understand who you are.
Like you said, I grew up in Arizona and I just like to have fun. I like to hang out with my wife. I love rugby, as we've already established. I enjoy other sports as well, such as volleyball. That's probably my first sport I've ever played. But also football. I have a couple of teams I like to root for college and for NFL. You can't get away from that, especially being raised in America. And a little bit of pickleball in there as well. You know, I used to work at Selkirk, so it kind of came with the job. But yeah, I just like to hang out with some of my cousins and friends in the area. I do a lot of traveling, so when I can, I like to hit up the family that I go and see in those areas that I travel. But outside of that, I'm pretty laid back. I enjoy music, watching movies, and that kind of entertainment when time allows. But pretty footy focused at the moment.
Noah is, I swear, he's related to everybody, man. And he has all kinds of friends in all kinds of places all over the nation. And one of the things that he helped us set up was he reached out for opening game for Team USA. And I realized quickly that he knew a lot of different people in all walks of the rugby life, and both internationally and nationally here. So it was a pleasure to be able to be given that opportunity and take those kids to North Carolina to do that. Something that they still talk about to this day.
And that was a fun one. That was courtesy of that wasn't all me. You know, Trevor Caddison reached out. He knew I knew some people that were some ballers, and he wanted a good team to come out there and face his North Carolina team. And I think we did just that. Yeah, it was a fun time. Fun time. Everybody learned, everybody developed, and we got the opportunity. Didn't you guys get to watch the USA game?
Against Spain, and they lost that time, but then a year later in North Carolina, in another city in North Carolina, they won. So
Yeah.
talk about a significant turnaround. And that's something you've been able to see from literally from all kinds of angles in both sevens and 15s as the development of the game. And from your vantage point, especially being so young, I mean, you might not consider yourself young, but I consider yourself really young.
Yeah.
But from the time that you've been involved, what are some of the things that you've been seeing in the rugby community and just the sport in general? Has it grown? What are some of the things that everyone's doing well, and what are some of the things that you think we need to take a look at and do differently, especially as we prepare for more people to get on board?
No, 100%. I think the game has evolved so much, especially at the youth level, compared to when I started playing and to now, there, especially in America specifically. I think there's a lot more athletes that are coming to the game, and so it's really fun to watch. You know, especially here in Idaho specifically, I feel like we have a pretty crazy access to amount of athletes here in like a 5 mile region. And so it's been really fun to see just the explosiveness that athletes are bringing from other sports into footy. And I also think we've been developing a lot more IQ in the game. So you're seeing a lot of players starting to gain an understanding on and off the field, and they're starting to become players' main sport. And so I think that's a really drastic change compared to when I was growing up. Rugby was always like, you know, on the back burner, just something to do in the off season for football, etc. Growing up in Arizona and Southern California. Some things that we could focus on in the US is just more development, honestly.
Mhm.
Me personally, I think it would be awesome to have more development as a coach and as referees specifically. I feel like we've come to that era that our players are really high level and they're pretty raw still. And as coaches and referees, it's kind of on our shoulders to help prepare them for that next level. And they can only play to their potential excuse me, let me rephrase that. They can only play to what they have in front of them
Right.
according to our knowledge as coaches and referees. So if we continue to grow that area of the game and have a focus that everybody can get better, including myself, I feel like we can give a really huge pathway to these players to go from being pretty solid on the field to generational talents in America's stance.
I love it. And you've been able to see that from not, well, I know you work a couple of different things, and one of them is the World Rugby Shop. So you get to see this all over the nation. And just I could validate what you're saying, especially about the referees. The dearth of referees as of late has been pretty real, and it's actually very concerning when you speak with the ones that have refed and why they're leaving the sport. It's not very comforting, and I hope that people listen to this and volunteer to ref and do the things that start to push the sport. And speaking of pushing the sport, I've heard this long debate. My European friends, in even in Polynesia, and I have some of my Australian friends, and so there's that debate of, what if you get the American style football players playing? What would that do if they were trained up right? You've seen some pretty good talent and what you call generational. What would that be like if football worked in conjunction with rugby?
Oh, it'd be pretty exciting. We've already seen a few people transition at the high
Mhm.
levels. We have Carlin Isles and then the Perry Bakers. Those
Yeah,
are on the speed. I mean, you have Nate Ebner back in the day. He was a Super Bowl champion and
yeah,
played on the USA team as well. James Vifale is the one that brings to mind. Those guys are some significant athletes. I've
yeah,
never seen anybody in rugby have a shiftier cut than James Vifale in person, and that's a name that not a lot of people know about. But if we have those football style players with their training and their explosiveness, I
right.
think we could see some pretty, just a lot more numbers of like, those hard hitters, those big runs, etc., that come through. You'll see a lot more of those. The only thing that's kind of hard though for those football players to come through is just the amount of running.
Yeah, yeah,
It'd
yeah.
be really fun to see some of those big boys, like an Aaron Donald type running the ball. That'd be
Oh
kind of
yeah.
scary.
That would be pretty scary, man. I mean, Ashton Genty, I can
Oh,
you imagine how shifty that kid would be on the field.
like if we had the same focus that football has to their craft in
Yeah.
footy, oh
Yep.
man, the doors that we could unlock, we would take the whole game and just level it up a couple
Yeah.
levels, in my opinion.
I would agree. I remember when they were talking about when they had that gigantic French player and such, and he's a big guy, I agree, but you look at that with the NFL folks and just like, oh my goodness gracious, man.
Yeah, what was it, 2016, that Penn State offensive lineman ran a 4.62 at like
Yeah.
350 bills.
Oh my
That's,
goodness.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and and not to make it a North America centric type of thing. It's just us talking out loud in
Yeah.
that regard. Well, the other thing too is you have a pretty good business of training athletes in a number of different skills and such. And a lot of people in the valley over here, I know they go to you and they speak your praises, and it's a neat thing. And when you are coaching them as in a general sense, what do you think most people are missing when they are playing rugby? And then what would you suggest is a basic, this is what you should be doing if you want to stay in rugby shape, whether that be from cardiovascular or whether it be skills? I know that's a long question, but I'll let you answer it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the basics. I don't think we could preach the basics enough. I feel like in any athletics,
Yeah,
when it comes to those high level players,
yeah,
they're doing the basics at the highest level. And
yeah,
I think people overlook that and they think they kind of just go through the motions. Catch pass is a very great example
yeah,
where they go through that motion of just catching the ball, passing the ball. But if they really decide to hone in on the basics, that
mhm,
allows them to focus on other things when it comes time to play,
yeah,
like reading defenses and letting the play develop, etc. When it comes time to off-season stuff, what I like to encourage people to focus is mainly just switching their mentality when it comes to their approach
Mhm.
to trainings.
Yeah,
Just visualization is a big one that I like to help other athletes gain a understanding of how
right.
to, if you're in those solo sessions by yourself and everything, how to make it still as effective as you would be in a group setting.
Yeah.
And just being able to have that approach of, hey, I can get the most out of myself and just going out to the field just as much as I can get it when I have a high level coach in front of me teaching me some skills.
Yeah, matter of fact, you could see the difference in some of the folks that you have been training lately in some major tournaments. So that's been pretty neat. And hearing you say the basics, it just further reinforces what I've seen too. You get other sports that they come in from, for instance, how to throw a soccer ball in, and they assume that it might be something that you could do in a line out, or even a pass, just a double hand pass versus a football pass. And we've actually seen that where they start throwing it like a football and just changing those mechanics. And it's something that if the sport is to continue to progress, it's just those little fixes. And to your point, it is the little things. If someone was making the transition to rugby, what are some of the things that you would tell them that they would need to work on?
Yeah, I think the most important part of the game when it comes to teaching points for those athletes that transition, honestly, is that catch pass.
Mm,
Most of those athletes are super physical that want to come and play footy, so
yeah,
contact, that's what they look for. They
yeah,
really they're really good and really hone in and listen when it comes to those contact drills. Just teaching people how to do that simple catch pass and honestly start with like the league pass. You don't even need to spin. You could just hit those push passes, those punch passes, whatever you want to call it, and just teaching them how to really focus on that instead of, doing those, we've seen them, those
yeah.
funky passes that come out in game. I feel like that's the big barrier when it comes to players coming into the sport. And another thing is just teaching them you always got to stay behind somebody. So
Yes.
yeah, no forward
Yes.
passes and stuff like that. And
Yes.
so catch, pass, and alignment in the field.
Yeah.
Once they get those things down, the game starts to become a bit easier.
Gotta ask you, what's the funniest thing you've ever seen on the field with someone just starting with rugby?
And I've seen some stuff. I've seen streakers in Australia. I've seen people take their clothes off on like, take his shirt off as he's running to score a try and start going around and singling. So I've seen that. I've seen some interesting fights, man, like you name it. I've seen refs try to fight people. I've seen refs try to fight refs. It's been fun. It's been fun being involved in the sport. I've also seen people who have like the best try that would have been scored,
Uh-huh.
but they run out the back because they don't know where the lines are.
Right.
But here's the funny thing, the ref was looking at them, saw the line, and they came back over the line out after running out of bounds and scored the try, and it was awarded.
Oh,
And that was a game winner too. So I just now looking back, that's pretty funny. Hospital passes, you
oh
name
yeah.
it. I think those are all pretty funny in my opinion.
They are. Matter of fact, I think you were there for this one in Tropicals this past year. We had a kid that was a football player. He crossed the try line and he spiked the ball.
I do remember that. Yeah, that was a good one.
Or forwards that are they after they pass, they're blocking.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah, those are a good one. A little crack back, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh man, it's some good fun. What do you see for the future of rugby? I've asked you a sort of a question like that, but what does it look like in the next 5, 10 years?
That's a good question. We have a lot of, especially on the girls' side, we have a lot of competing sports coming into play. A perfect example is flag football.
Oh
The
yeah.
NFL is backing those guys up pretty hard with the number one benefactor, money.
Yes.
And
Yes,
so
it's true. It's
yeah, then we
true.
have what is it called? The World Cup is supposed to be coming to America here soon. We have the
Mhm.
Olympics in LA.
Yeah.
Uh, so in terms of rugby, I think in America at least, it's gonna be, I feel like these next 2 years are gonna be a very big decision maker in the
Yeah.
trajectory of the
Yeah.
sport here in America. I think we have a lot of potential to make this a little bit more known in the public eye
Yep.
and with less fear as well,
Yep.
especially with some of the rule changes that we have and contact. And I think we have some really great coaches in the area of the America that are doing some awesome things on the collegiate level.
Hmm.
As it just all comes down to admin. So if our
Hmm.
admin kind of get on board and
Hmm.
get up to date with everything, in terms of the trajectory that we like the potential, I should say, that we
Yeah.
have as a sport to grow in America. If they really get on the ball and understand that, hey, like we got some fierce competition, but
Yeah.
let's start growing the sport in our areas and of influence, then we can do some crazy things, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
What do you think would be necessary for us to get on the same page? Because some of the things that we've seen here and abroad is fight against each other. And it's easy. I'm guilty of that. But I'm talking even from the national level, from USA Rugby to the local level to regional level, whatever it might be.
I think it's fairly simple. Just focus on the players. If we
Yeah.
put the players at the main point and
Mhm.
what is it called? Focus on what is truly best for them and their path. I think we could all agree that our players are the ones who are the main thing, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. You
Yeah.
know, for me personally, my approach as a coach is like, it's not me winning these games. I didn't play these games. It's the
Hmm.
players. You gotta
Yeah.
you gotta go back to focusing on the players and making sure that we're doing what's best for them.
Yeah, yep. And I do like that. I think sometimes we get, I mean, it sucks to lose, but if the whole identity is just upon the winning, it's not a happy sight. I mean, just in general from a mental standpoint, right? It just but that's just my own opinion. I'm sure coaches are going to have different opinions on that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's funny.
Perfect. Well, man, I appreciate you coming over here and talking about that. I have a feeling we'll be talking in the future here because once we start talking about different plays, different things, strategy and sessions and so on, chalk talk, whatever you want to call it, it'll be some fun stuff. I want to make sure that we're taking advantage of the knowledge that you have to bring to the table, and I think it's a beautiful thing what you're doing over here. So thank you for the commitment to the sport, but also just being the upstanding guy.
Thank you, Maurice. Cheers for having me, brother.